Hello everyone, welcome back to my lesson. So guys, in the previous lessons, I've said that trillion times. Guys, in chapter 10, we learned about gravity and Sir Isaac Newton. Now in chapter 11, section 2, we will learn about Newton's law of motion. So in chapter 10, we said Newton was the first to describe gravity. But Newton also described and talked about the relationship between between motion and force. Okay, so his work was not only about gravity. He had talked about force and motion and what is the relationship between force and motion. In this lesson, we will learn about the laws of Sir Isaac Newton. So Sir Isaac Newton described the relationship between force and motion through three laws. Today, we will learn his first law of motion. So Newton's first law of motion, what does it say? Let's explain it in one example and you will learn it faster. Wait for me, I'll be back. Okay guys, so look at this ball. It's in my hand and it will not move unless I make it move. Okay, so it is still, it's not moving. Why? Because there is no force acting on it. So no force is acting on the ball. So the ball is still, it's not moving. It is at rest. We can say it's at rest. Why? Because no force is acting on it. Actually, there is force acting on it, the gravity, but we're not talking about it. So friction, but we are not talking about it. So the object is not moving. I am moving. By moving, I mean moving. Moving means moving. Okay, so does it move? No, it does not. Why? Because no force is acting on it. Now I will throw the ball. It moved. I throw it. It moved. Why? Because the force that I have in my hand acting on the ball and the ball moved. Then I stopped the ball from moving. Why? Because I want to. But how? By using my other hand. So I use a force in my hand to stop the ball from moving. So what does that mean? عملوا إيش من بو example يا سبب كل كت عن درين ترتيب كان أنا حزن لكردية كان شيء topic اللي أنا ودسمه أوكي اللي أنا ودسمه نانسوله لو اللي بلو كيت هذا كيت فرصك إيش لسناك باشا حزيلين يبصله تنبلا تنبلا أوكي إستا أمن أجد توبكي بعلم سوري كتوبكم هاريشت توبكا زولا يكسر زولا دس زولا يعني ها زولا that means moving زولا باشا توبكا زولا جاية أمن بدستم رانجرت باش أوا تسبيوين إيشي هنا با first law of motion كنيوتن باسيكا بزانين first law of motion تصدق مكتوب كشنة في البيت. The first law of motion, Newton's first law of motion states that an object at rest stays at rest. أجر objectك لرست بي at rest will stay at rest. لرست من يتوا. أجر objectك لرست بي لا يعني نزولة لا هاد بنزولة من يتوا. Okay? An object in motion her object اللي توليده be in motion remains in motion at a constant speed in a straight line unless acted on by an unbalanced force. So we will break this law into two parts. Okay, part one, the part that says object at rest. Or party كده object كمان rest. So it says objects resist starting to move. So the ball, or our example was the ball. So the ball resists to move. It doesn't want to move. Like it wants to stay still, not moving. Okay? So all objects in the universe, according to Newton's first law of motion, will or tend to stay at rest. يعني هم object كالuniverse هي حزيان ليه دياني ويه لغيستا بالله حالته شيء مثلا لو حالتي دا بكتي جاي أو نازولة نديوي هربا نازولة بمينتها. Okay? Unless a force acts on it. حتى نازولة حتى فورسك كارية سنكا يعني أوتوبا بنزولاري دمينتها حتى فورسك نيتن مثلا عند شاطئ شو لطوبا كده دم يعني بدستم دي هذا باشا بفورسي دستم وطوبا كده زولا كده بخوي نازولا مثلا ليرة دا إذا نم أجر مثلا باني تنياك بالي بيو إن شو تشيل أنا دات نازولا لو because it tends to stay at rest لبلو يديوي بلا ريستك مينيتا مثلا ساليني بخينن بس أنا بزوري بيتان داخلي. Okay, we forced you to study. So how to? You don't want to study, but you have to. Because why? Because you. But you study. No. You don't want to study. For example, you don't want to study, but you will study. Why? Because your teacher forces you to study. It's good. So أتولعت يبخيني بس دخيني بناثاري لولا بروي teacher كد ما مستعد force دكك بخيني. أوش نفس الشيء. باشا يعني object كنا بزولتنا تأكدني زولاني. الخوي lazy تنبلا. ليه؟ And that's why the first law of Newton's first law of motion always described as laziness, but تنبلي ناسرة. Okay, so this is the first part that says objects at rest tend to stay at rest. يعني ولا resting منها. Then second part objects in motion أو object ثاني يدزول دانا أو object ثاني كا ببردوام يدزولن. For example, moon is always moving that rotates, or air is always moving. Okay, they will always they tend to move. They don't want to stop. So the second part of Newton's first law of motion says that objects resist changing their speed or stopping. Objects they want the objects that are moving. For example, I am moving. Okay, the objects that are moving, they tend to continue moving. Okay, or remain moving. أو توبا مثلا كداي هاويهم مثلا كهاويشتم بقو حزيلية باشو يدست بزولك الحزيلية هربوا تاك بيكو داري بس تشتك وادكاتن what makes it stop تشتك وادكا راب وستي هاكا من توبا كم هاويشت بانو when I throw the ball تشتك وايك توبا كراب وستي from moving لا motion راب وستي my hand stopped the ball دستي من توبا كي راقد. Okay, so أجا دستي من نبات توبا كل خواطري حتى بأخير بعمل كتو أو كاتب هو friction و gravity رادوسا. Okay, so object is party دوام ضلتنسي objects. I'm sorry, I'll be back. Now I am back. So objects in motion أو object ثاني بتزول دانا tend or they resist and they resist changing their speed برگری لەوەی دەکەن خێرایەکەیان بگۆڕێ یان they resist stopping from moving resisتی ئەوەی دەکەن کە لە جوڵێ ڕابوەستن لۆ because they want to continue moving دەیانەوێت ببەردەوامی هەر بجوڵێ هێشتوا دەبینات هەڵا دروستن لە کۆتایەکی بۆی فریکشن و ئەو فریکشنی لە هەوای دووربەرمان والحاصل ئەم فەختان بۆی دەبێت so ئێستا هەنی سهولة it's so easy right ئێستا هەمتان تێگەیشتینە هەر تۆپەکە لە خۆت بینە پێشتای خۆتوان ئەوەش لێگەڕێ now you were sitting on a couch أتولو خود أنا في دانشتي okay and you're scrolling over social media scrolling social media you don't want to move you don't want to go anywhere you just want to stay at rest and wasting your time تجينا خود لسر قنفة كي هذا بدي شوف scrolling social media يبكي يعني جميل يبكي but your mom calls you ذاك البانك تكا so you have to move or your mom comes and pushes you palp يودنا لو أو يعني حزين لي زعسك pushes you أتجولي أتبخوت زولي نا شيء ولا يكردي زولي forcing your mom forcing ذاك هي زيداك دوايك أتجولي good okay so بعد بارك هنا Newton's first law of motion states that an object at rest remains at rest. An object that is not moving will stay not moving, will remain at rest unless an unbalanced force acts on it. حتى unbalanced force يشيل صدقة. And an object in motion will remain in motion until or at a constant speed and in a straight line unless acted on by an balanced force. So basically, like I've repeated that 1,000 times just today. So an object that is still not moving at rest will stay at rest unless unbalanced force acts on it, and an object that is moving or an object in motion will remain in motion at a constant speed and in a straight line until an unbalanced force acts on it. Okay, easy peasy. زور آسانه. خوای که نگیشت بن سلطان دبیرم. هذا شيء سهل. سهل المكردينات. على الساري هذا سهل مدستر اسمه سارع. أوكي. وسارع موس دجولة. حتى بفضل راينا جديد دد بدل يعتاد بين بنزين ستوب نازم ستوب بنزين أمشتان نازم بس والحاصل هكا راينا جديد بفضل راينا جديد. ونيا أقدر تو استافتك بسيتن سعرك هلا موفمن بردام نابي so بإستاف يتراي دقي قاعد فرصة كاين أقدر نغير زولا and تمشي وش طق كيف يمكن أو مكان منها إنسان منها on a table it's a table okay and it's not moving it will stay there forever until we change its place. Okay, so this is the part one, and this one is the part two. Okay, so Newton's first law of motion بأشعري خمان يعني مثلا أشعري إنجليزي Palin ياساي تنبلي laziness نبريها lazy بس بزماني مثقفان يعني scientifically بس وصل ذكرتن بوي وصل ذكرت inertia يعني تنبلي سيستي تزان النظام كل شيء بالضبط inertia can I say inertia it's so important guys it is important so it says inertia is the tendency of all objects to resist any change in motion the object's willing, it means the object's will to resist any change in their motion دەڵێ inertia یعنی ئۆبجێکتەکانی کە لە دەوروبەرمان هەن هەمووی ئەوەی لە یونیڤەرسی هەیە. They don't want to change their emotion نانێ emotion خۆیان بگۆڕێت. They want to stay as they are. كوني أو هابن دزولين هرب زولاي بمينين راوستاين هربن راوستاي بمينين. But we don't let them. We don't let them. We literally make them move or make them stop. Why? Because we want it. We want to. Okay? So this is inertia. So it says it is the tendency of all objects to resist any change in their motion. Easy peasy. So أسانا بهۆم تێگەیشتبن ئەکیدی شم تێگەیشتینە ئەگەر تێژ نەگەیشتینە دەتوانن لە خۆتان سەڵ زاتە ماشە ئەو ڤیدیۆیی کەنەوەڵە ئەرەوەڵە هەرم باي باي